Eastburn of Institute of Technology or of Hypnosis, pardon me, Drake. He's located in Denver, Colorado. He's had a hypno practice for over 30 years. And he was first exposed to hypnosis through the Silva mind control way back in the day. And that spurred him on. He's written over 9 books, one of which the information on the weight is included in this presentation today. He's also done several others on hypnosis. One is called What is Hypnosis? The other is The Power of Suggestion. And he has a complete book, we're carrying a college-bound thick book, Bible of all hypnosis and terminology from A to Z. It's a must for your library. Anyway, I'm excited to listen to what he has to talk about, the weight virus. And so, Drake, the floor is yours.
There. Can you hear me okay?
I don't think you're not yet.
All right. So I hit the share screen.
Just a minute.
I need you to let me share the screen. Can you hear me okay?
We're working on it, Drake. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's all right.
Keep talking, Drake. We don't.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm almost all the way up.
So how do you turn your microphone off?
Try it now.
Okay, we'll try it now. All right, thank you. Ta-da. Let's see.
Up to on the right, bottom right.
Oh. There we go. Cool. Here.
Your slide.
Can everybody see that all right? Can you hear me all right? Okay, great. I got a nod there. So I'm okay. Wait, I'm not on the right. There we go. So our talk's going to be about combating the obesity virus and the challenges that we are facing. So in my way of looking at it, our physical health is a good foundation for good mental health. You know, if we build a good foundation, if we have good physical health, we tend to feel better about ourselves and who we are, and we tend to be more alive. We tend to participate in life more, which helps for good mental health. The reverse can be a problem also, as if our psychological health is not good. For instance, if we're suffering from depression or whatever, people who suffer from depression also tend to suffer from pain. And then we get into that victim mentality. And one of the first thoughts that comes to a person's mind who is depressed is not going out to exercise. But we know that exercise is really good for our mental attitude and improving those kind of things. So a good physical health is important, and not just our weight, but getting the proper nutrients and like that into our bodies is an important thing. So we're going to take a kind of a quick look at some of the statistical issues that are going on. Colorado, where I live, it has been the leanest state for some time at 20%, but we've kind of lost some ground here of late, and we are now in 6th place overall in terms of obesity rate, and we're at 25.1%. The reason that we enjoyed a lean environment here for years is because the adult population of Colorado tends to be a very active group of folks. But the younger generations coming up are not so inclined. So as old folks begin to slip away and the younger folks take over, the obesity rate is going to go up. Also, some other things happen, like we had COVID, that probably contributed to that, but also we've had a big influx of people coming into this state lately and bringing their overweight issues along with them. So, and one of those big motivators was our leniency with marijuana, which to me is not really a good motivator to pick up and move to another state. Right now, Washington is the leanest state at 24.7%. Actually, Connecticut was predicted to be the leanest state when Colorado slipped, but Connecticut didn't fare quite as well. So your northernmost neighbors are doing pretty well up there. Massachusetts, Vermont, Utah, Connecticut, and Hawaii are close behind Washington. And you guys up there in Oregon, you're at 28.1% obesity rate. So if you want to catch up with Washington, you guys need to eat a salad or two here and there. But when you think about it, I mean, of these states that we're looking at, generally we're going to say about 25% obesity rate. And that's really not very good. That's really not very good at all. So there's a lot of things we need to take into consideration. We'll be talking about some of those things. But here's something on the gloomy side. West Virginia now is has the worst obesity rate at 40.7%. Now, Mississippi was the most obese here recently, but I'm not going to say they're improving. They just gained a little bit slower than some of their neighbors there. But Alabama, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Mississippi are all right up there around that 40% or more mark, which is not good. And while Mississippi has improved slightly, predictions are saying that by 2030, they can expect about a 66.7% obesity rate. So that's going to mean that the average person in these states is going to be way overweight. And they're not talking about just overweight, but obese. So this is not looking good. So according to Harvard Medical School, excess weight diminishes almost every aspect of our health. It's kind of like the new smoking in a sense. Now, cancer rates are much higher in people who are overweight. Now, that doesn't mean that we can say, well, if you got liver cancer, well, that's not very common, but let's say cancer of the kidneys, for instance, we can't necessarily say that is it because of being overweight that you got that. But we do know that your risks are much higher for those other cancers if you are overweight. Fat stores toxins. So if you've got a lot of extra fat in your body, you're going to be storing toxins, and those things can end up being a big health risk. And this includes reproductive issues and respiratory. My wife works with fertility issues all the time. And a lot of times a person's weight is a big factor in their ability to get pregnant. Deadly diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, greatly decrease the quality of life. And weight around the midsection is more related to stress and is more dangerous because that weight in the midsection is in with our vital organs, and it creates a bigger risk. And it used to be this was really a male issue, and it was related to stress in the workplace, things like that. And because women tend to carry their weight lower in the body, and they were at less risk for some of these kinds of issues. But now women's stress levels are getting really big too, and way more than actually women are better at dealing with stress, but we keep piling it on until the point where you can only take so much. So they're gaining more weight in the midsection as well. So this is not good. So what is the cost of weight? The more we spend on weight loss, the bigger we get. And you can track this over the years. What we spent on for weight loss, like in the early 60s, was almost nothing. And now it keeps going up and up and up. The Statistics Research Department estimates Americans spent over 78.9 billion on weight reduction services. And this is all sorts of things like weight clinics, dietary food, meal substitutes, things like that. I don't think that's including hypnosis, for instance. And I don't think it's including like gym memberships and things like that that people get also to help manage their weight. So that gives you some idea. Money is not fixing this issue, and we're trying to prove that. So what is causing the continued growth? Well, here's a number of factors that I'm going to touch on: anxiety, societal issues, the power of comfort, cognitive dissonance, our diet, exercise, and hypnosis. And I'm going to cover each one of these topics, at least briefly, as we go through here. So anxiety is a big deal right now. At least 85% of my practice is for anxiety accompanied by panic attacks. When I get a new client, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be about anxiety, it's going to be panic attacks, and of course we're going to lump stress in with that as well. But these things are factors in how we relate to our weight, how we make poor choices. And if you're anxious, you're looking for some way out of this, and it has to do with cognitive dissonance, and we're going to talk about that a bit too. But currently our society is like we're in a pressure cooker, and nobody's turning the flames down, and the pressure just keeps building. And there's a lot of divisiveness, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's the impetus for all this anxiety that I'm seeing in my world. So what are some societal issues? And we are herd animals, pack animals, and we receive comfort out of being with our herd and doing the things that everybody else is doing. But the problem is what direction is that herd headed in? For instance, several years back, Krispy Kreme donuts came to Colorado for the first time. And it was on the news night after night. Cars were lined up for blocks for people to get in to try these Krispy Kreme donuts. And some friends of mine said, "Have you tried the Krispy Kreme donuts?" And I go, "No, and I'm not going to." And they go, "Well, how are you going to know what they taste like?" And I said, "I won't know, and I don't care, because there's nothing in there that's got any food value, nothing in there that's good for me. But we see this on TV. Everybody else is doing it. I want to try it too." And so we're influenced by that. Our herd mentality has to do with our survival, our safety. Being in that herd, we're safer, but being in that herd, we're limited by whatever the herd is doing. And I'm going to talk about this more at the end here, what we can do. But if we keep going in the direction that the herd's going, we're going to be in trouble. So our diet is one of the big factors. When I was a kid, and Lindsay and I have talked about this, Lindsay being my wife, but when we were in school, there might be one kid in class that was chubby, and a lot of people would make fun of it. But now that's become more normalized, and lots of kids are overweight. But it's a lot about the choices, and there's just so many bad choices that we can make. You know, at my office in Westminster, I'd step out the back door, and directly out the back door, there's a Dairy Queen, a Dairy Queen. Next to that, on the right side, there was a biker bar. Across the street was a pizza place. To the left side, there was a fast food Mexican place. Next to that was a Winchell's Donut Shop. Next to that was another Mexican place, and next to that was a Pizza Hut, and across from there was a burger place. And it's like I could throw a rock at and hit any one of those. And to find a place that had good, clean food, you had to go a couple of blocks up the street to a Thai place like that, or a half a mile to an Indian place. So it was real easy to make a bad choice. And this is true all over. I mean, it's real easy to swing into the fast food joint and pick up something as you're on your way home or like that. But these are not good choices. About 1980, high fructose corn syrup came to the United States. And it took a while before it really started to get integrated into our diets. But you might all recall a time when we started having these giant size bottles of sodas, and you go to a restaurant and you get a giant soda and you get refills, and you wouldn't even finish one before they had another one set in front of you. And this was when high fructose corn syrup was adopted by the soda companies, when they figured out that they could use high fructose corn syrup and it wouldn't change their recipes. And high fructose corn syrup was so much sweeter than the sweetener they were using, which was basically corn syrup, that they could afford to expand their product line that greatly, and it was no cost to them. And what happened was people just got used to drinking more and more sodas, and it shows up. Problem with high fructose corn syrup is that it's such a refined product that your liver doesn't have to spend much time breaking it down, and it goes right into your system and is stored in as fat. And we don't need that. It's candy. It's just a liquid candy, and we don't need to be bringing in that kind of sugars. But what we do is we get more addicted to those sweeteners. So it's really easy to make these bad choices, because there's plenty of them out there. Exercise. Exercise is really important when we're trying to maintain our weight or lose some weight. I hate to use that term lose, but weight mastery is a term I usually like to use. For one thing, if you're dieting and you're trying to reach a certain number on the scale, let's say, and all you're doing is watching your diet, you will, as you lose fat, you'll also lose muscle mass with that. And that's one reason doctors are always putting you on a diet, and an exercise program. Because if we don't exercise, we're going to lose that muscle mass along with the fat. And then we might reach our goal weight, but we're not going to have that toned look that we might have wanted. Not only that, the muscle mass affects our metabolism. The more lean muscle mass we have, the more our metabolism works in our favor. Now, one of the things I'm faced with a lot as a hypnotist is clients come in and they go, I hate to exercise. And I hear that all the time. But mostly it's people who have never exercised to the point where they've really started to enjoy it. They get into it, they feel the aches and pains, and they give up, and that's it. Doesn't work for me. But we really need to we're machines. We're a series of pulleys and levers, and we're meant to move. And if we don't, just like a machine, you'll atrophy. And now that doesn't work for you. I go to the gym all the time, and there's these geriatric classes, and most of these people are younger than I am, but they're like doing this and doing that. And it's like, if you just use your body a little bit over the years, you might be in a little better shape. and this wouldn't be a problem. But really, if you don't use it, you lose it, is the way it goes. So the power of comfort and cognitive dissonance plays a big role in this. As Festiger would say, we go from a dissonant state to a consonant state. If we're in dissonance, we seek consonance. If we're in consonance, we try to avoid dissonance. And an easy way to kind of get into a more consonant state is to gravitate towards certain foods and that make us feel warm and fuzzy, or what we might call comfort foods or whatever. And not only that, it's easy. It's easier to do something like this than it is to change a habit. And I'll talk about some of that too as we go along. But we're trying to maintain a consonant state or to get out of a dissonant state. And believe me, there's plenty of dissonance these days with the stress and the divisiveness and all that's going on. Also, hypnosis, and while we refer to ourselves as hypnotists or hypnotherapists, a lot of what we're doing really is dehypnotizing people from the hypnosis they got in the past, the conditioning that we received. Maybe a lot of you were part of that clean plate club. You were taught to clean your plate as a youngster, and the reward was to get your plate clean. And it wasn't about recognizing your satisfaction level or satiation or any of that. It was about cleaning the plate. And one of the rewards might be that you just got to get up and leave the table, or you got to join the family and watch TV. But one of the most neurotic rewards that we got was, well, if you clean your plate, meaning if you overeat, then you can have dessert. So your reward for overeating is yet more food, and we wonder why we're neurotic, but that's one of them. So those are some things, and I'm kind of going through these things a little fast because I got a lot of stuff, but there will be a little question and answer at the end, as I understand. So let's see what was next here. Okay, I have the fat gene, and I have clients that say this a lot. They'll go, well, I have the fat gene. And I go, well, what makes you say that? And they go, well, my parents were fat, their parents were fat, everybody in our family is fat, we got the fat gene. And that's not an indication of anything. There is a particular gene that is associated with weight issues. However, even if you have that gene, that is the smallest factor and can easily be overridden by diet and exercise and good lifestyle choices. But a lot of times when people say I have the fat gene, where they are and go, well, there's really nothing I can do. I'm stuck with this. And that's just not the case. However, when it comes to genes and your weight, your genes are not your friend. Your genes, in our genetic past, we didn't have refrigerators. We were the refrigerators. And if we hunted down a buffalo, we couldn't cut that buffalo up into steaks and put it in the freezer for later. We gorged ourselves on what there was and stored the fat and like that in our body until the next time we ate. And along with that, your genes do not want you to expend energy unless there's a positive outcome like a meal at the end. So if you're a bit of a couch potato, you can blame some of that on your genes. However, we can override our genes, or we can sort of retrain them, or what we call epigenetics. Genes are a tendency to do something in a direction, but we can kind of rewire those genes to work more in our favor. You know, people who go to the gym every day are doing that as a determination, a desire, or because they enjoy it, not because their genes are saying go to the gym every day. So we aren't a slave toward genes. Our genes are there; they're affecting us, but we can go beyond those. So genes aren't working in your favor. The food addictions. What foods do we become addicted to? So I have people come to me and they go, you got to get me off of chocolate. You got to get me off of Coca-Cola. You got to get me off of ding dongs. Nobody has ever come into my office and gone, you got to get me off of spinach, or you got to get me off of broccoli. That never happens. Every food that people are addicted to is something that's not good for us. And the reason being, these things are high in sugar, high in fats, high in carbohydrates, and these things are the most addictive. Food, our diets are an addiction. We could think of it as a positive addiction, because if we weren't addicted to eating, we'd soon disappear. And people go, oh, food isn't addiction. I go, well, one of the major definitions of addiction is if you do not do that thing and you experience withdrawals, then you're addicted to it. So I say, stop eating. See if you have any withdrawals, like death somewhere along the way. So yeah, food is an addiction, and it might be more of a positive addiction in a way, but there are certain foods that we are addicted to. So foods, sugar is one of those things. In our genetic past, it behooved us to seek out foods that had a high sugar content, because foods that had a high sugar content also had a high food value. So it behooved us to seek these things out. But what were we going to find? Well, we were going to climb a tree and we were going to get some fruit, or we we're going to forage through the forest or whatever. And we were going to get a natural product with high food value. So it behooved us to crave sugar. Nowadays, when we have a desire for something sweet, we can walk into the kitchen and we can get a mega dose of a refined drug. And like with other drugs, the more of that substance that we get, our tolerance levels increase. So whatever buzz we get from that sugar, the neurotransmitters that we would normally produce that give us some satisfaction diminish. So then we need more and more of this other substance to get us to where we feel good again. Several years back, when I was doing some research on, well, sugar was part of that for our weight group, but my office manager, Marty, she was looking up some stuff and case studies and things. And there was one gal who would eat 34 Twinkies a day. Just one Twinkie kind of disgusts me, the idea, but she was eating 34 Twinkies a day. But even more disgusting than that was that when her husband left for work in the morning, she would get out sugar and she would eat spoonful after spoonful of raw sugar until she was actually achieving a drug high. And they had to do some sort of an intervention with her to get her off of the sugar. Also things like fats, certain fats we tend to be more addicted to. And there was a research study that I was watching that where they took people who were depressed and they were doing SPECT scan studies of their brain, and they would feed them certain kinds of fats. And they could see how their brain was reacting to these fats, and their level of depression was going away with these fats. The problem is that as the fats left their body, then they started craving more fats, and it took more and more fats to get the feeling good. So while they got a temporary feel good sensation, the overall effects were probably not that good. So we can seek these foods for that feel good moment, but it doesn't last. So carbohydrates, carbohydrates are basically sugars, and the more refined those carbohydrates are, the quicker they enter into our system. And some of them just hardly even have to get recognized by the liver. They can almost just go straight into our system, and end up being fat. And it's just not good. And that's where we get these sugar spikes. Type 2 diabetes is at epidemic levels, all because of lifestyle choices. So how do we deal with other addictions? And I see a lot of addictions coming into my office, but the main one is like nicotine, and who is successful? Who is successful with these addictions? And it's the guy or the woman who never picks up another cigarette. It's the guy who never takes another drink. It's the guy who never does any more crack. It's the guy who never snorts any more cocaine, and like that. Those are the ones who are successful. But somehow with food, we feel like we can just keep going. It's like, if you're addicted to chocolate, don't eat chocolate. It's not rocket science, because if you keep eating it, you're going to keep being addicted to it. I was doing a talk at a school several years back, and it was a special school. It was like kids who had gotten out of high school and they were transitioning into the workforce, and there were different careers, and different people were given talks. And the gal who talked before me was a psychologist, and she was talking about how to use chocolate to deal with your emotional issues. And when I came on, I go, no, do not do this. We've been trying to deal with our emotional issues with chocolate and other foods all along, and you can see the effects. It's not working. That's craziness to try to do that. But people do try it, but it doesn't work. So if there's something you find yourself craving, get rid of it. And you may need a hypnotist like me to help you, but once you're off of it, don't. And this is one place where diet programs go wrong, because we see them advertised on TV all the time. It's like, you get on our program and you can still eat the foods that you love, and you don't even have to exercise. A lot of times they'll say, well, there may be some truth to that. If you stick to their program, yeah, maybe you can still eat chocolate cake or whatever. But what are you telling yourself? You're telling yourself that somehow chocolate cake's okay. I can keep eating chocolate cake. But once you're not on that program and watching everything and tracking it, then you're right back to where you were. And we can see the evidence of this. Diets are simply a temporary fix. People think, well, if I buy this diet pill, if I go on this program, and that's not the thing. Yeah, those diets, if you stick to it, a lot of them are going to help you get to your weight, but it's what we do every day that's not working. It's not rocket science, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more too as we go along. But if there's something that's calling to you, that's where to stop. Foods that we are allergic to also tend to be foods that we are attracted to. So we're eating foods and we're attracted to them, even though they're making us feel bad in the end. So there's a little food for thought. So how about subconscious patterns? And this is the territory of hypnotists. This is where we work really well. So we do the same things over and over again, what I refer to as the path of least resistance. And I just wrote a book about this whole freaking path of least resistance thing. And it has to do with our survival. It has to do with the reptilian brain. And back in the 60s, they thought that the reptilian brain was a particular part of our brain. But that's not the case. But the reptilian brain is representative of actions that occur. And everything that climbed up out of the primordial ooze has this kind of quality. And it is about repetition. It's about doing things over and over. It's about survival. Well, I don't know if you do, but I'm going to tell you. One day, the lizard crawled out of his hole and he slithered down the hill to the pond and he caught some bugs and he drank some water and he went right back up the hill, back into his hole. And he'll repeat that pattern over and over and over again. Why? Because it worked. And this is the kind of response that we all have. You know, if you go out into the wilderness, whether it's in the woods or out in the prairie, wherever, but you'll find a path. Well, why is there a path? Well, there's a path because some deer or elk or cattle or something went that way once and it worked. Meaning they got to a grazing place or whatever and they survived. And it didn't matter that when they went that way, that they walked right past the lion's den because the lion wasn't hungry that day. And so it worked. And they will continue to go that way over and over and over again. And we are the same way. As humans, we do the same things over and over. We'll take the same route to work every day. We'll get gas at the same gas station every day, even though the gas across the street is the exact same gas. We'll get our lottery ticket at the same convenience store. We'll park in the same parking spot. We want to go to the same restaurant, and over again, we do the same thing. It's what I call the path of least resistance. It's easy for the subconscious mind to keep doing those things over and over again. And those patterns can work for us or they can work against us. You know, if we have a pattern of going to the gym 5 times a week, then that's a pattern that's going to work in our favor. If we have a pattern of stopping for fast food twice a day, that's a pattern that's not going to work in our favor, but the subconscious doesn't care. The subconscious just takes the path of least resistance. It takes no effort on the part of the subconscious to continue doing the same thing over and over. To make a conscious change is dissonant producing. People go, I have no willpower. I tried to quit smoking. I tried to change my diet. And I keep going back to the same old thing. I have no willpower. Well, yeah, you have willpower, but willpower is a short-term strategy. It's meant to get us through a temporary time. It's not meant to run your life off of. It's stressful. And what happens is we try to gut something out and until our willpower begins to run out, and then there's a cigarette or there's a candy bar or there's a fast food place or whatever. And there we are. We have a saying in hypnosis that when the conscious and the subconscious are in conflict, the subconscious is probably going to win because it doesn't have to work at it. Changing a habit is dissonant producing. It takes effort. And doing the same old thing is easy. Plus, doing the same old thing means you're with the herd. You have approval. You're getting validated because everybody around you is doing that same thing. But the problem is it's not working out. So, like I said, repeating the same behaviors requires no volition. Change is dissonant producing. So it's easier to just keep heading down that same path of resistance. With hypnosis, we can make that change really quickly and easily, and we can change that path. And I'll give you, here's a little analogy that I use a lot. And it's like, let's say every morning you get up, you head out the front porch, off to your way of work or whatever, and you head down this path. And that path, it's the same path that you've used over and over every day. And that could be the path of a smoker. It could be the path of some other bad habit. Doesn't matter. Every day that you've gone that way. One morning you get up and you step out on the porch and a huge snowstorm has occurred. And there's no sign of path. But over here, off to the side, with the help of your friendly hypnotist, during the night, we created this new path. And now this becomes our new path, a healthier path, but it becomes the path of least resistance. So we're actually changing neural pathways. And once you shift that path, it tends to continue. How to immunize yourself. Well, here's some simple things to do. Whether you're a hypnotist or not, this would be good information for you. So if as a hypnotist, you haven't been using point of reference, and I know there are a lot of schools that don't teach it, but it's a simple process that's been around for ages. And here's a question that I ask my clients. One of the first questions I ask, especially when it has to do with weight loss, but was there ever a time when you liked the way you looked and felt? Now, I get answers like, "Whoa, when I was in high school, I was a cheerleader and I had these legs and and it's like, yeah." So now we have a model. Now, if I had a weight client and I sat there and in hypnosis and I'm telling them, "You're 20 pounds lighter, you're 20 pounds lighter, you're 20 pounds lighter," that isn't going to have any effect. But if I take them back to a time when they liked the way they looked and felt, and we get in touch with what it's like, how the clothes feel on your body, how your body moves, all these kind of things, now we have a model that we can step into. And this is what we call a transformational suggestion. If I say you're 20 pounds lighter, you're 20 pounds lighter, not going to have much of effect. But if I can give them a model to step into, now we can cause change to occur. Probably a lot of you have seen a stage show. And, sometimes the hypnotist will give a participant a broom or a mop or a microphone stand, and they go, "This is Marilyn Monroe, and you're going to dance with Marilyn Monroe." Well, this seems ridiculous. Why does a mic stand, why does a broom or a mop all of a sudden become Marilyn Monroe? But it's easier for the subconscious to take something and make it into something else than it is to take nothing and make something out of it. So that's what we call transformational suggestion, taking something and turning it into what we want. And let's say another question I'll ask people, is there anything in your future that you want to look and feel your best for? Maybe there's a family reunion, maybe there's a class reunion, maybe you're going on a cruise, maybe an anniversary, a wedding, whatever. So we can take this image and transform them into their future. So there's more motivation there than they're just saying, "Get skinny, get skinny." That doesn't work. And that's when it comes to processes, that's what I'm talking about, is taking them into those moments, projecting them into the future. And here are some things that can help, whether you're a hypnotist or not. Do you have pictures of yourself? And this is what I ask my clients, but do you have pictures of yourself from when you liked the way you looked and feel? Those pictures of yourself in that cheerleader uniform, or when you were playing baseball or whatever, and put those pictures up where you can see them over and over. Stick them on the mirror, stick them on the refrigerator, wherever you're going to see them over and over. And I have clients, they go, "Oh, I don't even notice those pictures anymore." And I go, "That's fine." Because what they're saying is, intellectually, they're not paying attention to them. But every time they go to the mirror, every time they go to the refrigerator, they're getting this hit of, this is me, this lean, healthy individual, and it's helping to move us in the right direction. Now, I've had some clients, they go, "Well, I put fat pictures of myself in the refrigerator to discourage me." And the problem is with the subconscious is what you see is what you get. If you see a fat you, you're going to get a fat you. If you see a skinny you, you're going to get a skinny you. So you want the positive picture. Now, if a person doesn't have pictures like that, then we can cut a picture out of a magazine, or maybe we can use somebody else's picture. We can put our own head, put our own head on there. And usually this doesn't look right because the colors and things don't match up, but it doesn't matter. It might look ridiculous, but your subconscious, it likes these ridiculous images. It'll hang on to them. And so it doesn't matter. And boom, away you go. Now, some people go, I came out of the chute as a little butterball and nothing ever changed. So there are other processes that we can do. Like, for instance, well, who has a body that you can relate to? I mean, I'll say, you can't use Varushka because I'm not going to make you 7 feet tall. That takes a special session. So you need to pick a body that you can actually relate to. Now, well, my cousin, we're almost identical, except she's always stayed lean or whatever. Okay. So now we can take the client in hypnosis and create them to go into cousin's body. And what is it? What's it like being in this lean, healthy body? Now we've got that transformational piece going where now they can move ahead. Because they don't really have up until then, they don't have a model for what that feels like and how good it can be to be lean and healthy and fit. And I use that bit about what do they have in the future going on that can help project us there. Oh, wow. Okay. So what can we do? Well, the herd is not going in the right direction. And if I gave you guys that article that talked about that, the herd and some of the stuff that's going on. So, but if everybody's doing the wrong thing, what can we do? Well, we can be the maverick. We don't have to do what everybody else is doing. And this is not as comfortable because it's a little more dangerous out there away from the herd. But away from the herd, there's more choices, there's more options, there's more opportunities. We're not stuck with what the herd is doing. We're not stuck with Krispy Kreme donuts and sodas and like that. We can step out of that. And in that article I sent, I talked about how we need to change the direction the herd is going, but that seems unsurmountable. However, there is a tendency, because if you think about this, years ago, you might be watching me while we're all smoking cigarettes, but because of a lot of pressure from a small percentage of the population, now that seems ridiculous that we'd be doing that. But back then, that's what the herd was doing, and everybody was doing that. And now that's become kind of taboo to be a smoker anymore. So some of this is happening with our food choices as well. Like a lot of schools had fast food companies coming in there and serving pizzas and burgers and stuff like that. And now that's pretty much unheard of. People have pushed them out. And a lot of soda machines in schools and things like that are gone. And people got McDonald's to change the oil that they use to a more healthy oil to fry their French fries in and like that. So there is a push in that direction, and it's small, but we have to do that. We need to get things like high fructose corn syrup out of our diets. It's not working, and it's in so many things. It's in your ketchup, it's in spaghetti sauce, it's in everything. And Lindsay was making something the other day, and to find a product that didn't have sugar in it was very difficult. But being the maverick, it doesn't matter. You get to make a choice. I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for over 40 years. Once you make that decision, then you don't have to, the temptation isn't an issue anymore. Once you make that decision, I'm going to do this, then temptation, people go, well, don't you ever just want a steak? And I go, no, the idea actually I find is repulsive. Now, if you're a meat eater, I'm not trying to, well, maybe this will help make it more repulsive. I don't know. But I'm not trying to make a dietary choice for you. What I'm saying is I made a different choice. It's like we were talking about the fat gene. Now, my brother, my father, my mother, they were all overweight. And but it was all lifestyle choices. They ate the wrong kinds of foods, they drank too much, they smoked cigarettes, and I didn't. It's like, okay, I'm the maverick, I might be the black sheep, but look at them and look at me. They're all dead, So here I am, I'm still ticking away and at a ripe old age. So you need to be the person, and we've all seen this person. You were at some sort of a function where food was being served, and this person was offered food, and they go, oh, no, no, thank you, I'm not hungry, or no, thank you, I've already eaten, or no, thank you, I'm on a diet. That is the person that we all need to be. That is the maverick. They're doing something different. And that's who we need to be. We need to look at what are my needs in the moment? It's like mostly what happens if we're offered something, what do people do? They don't go, well, let's see, what are my nutritional needs in the moment? Is this going to satisfy what I need? Or am I even hungry? No, we go, cheesecake? Hell yeah, I'll have that, and boom. And we don't think about what is my level of hunger, what is my need for nutrients in the moment. No, we just jump on board and we take some of that. We need to be the person who can just say no, who can go without that. A friend of mine who's a well-known hypnotist in St. Louis, Missouri. He said, why is it that a diet is the only place where when we mess something up, it means to mess up worse? And what he meant was, when you're on a diet and you do something wrong, then we kind of just throw the diet out the window. And he said, if you back your car into the phone pole and you bend the fender, you don't go, oh, bent the fender, might as well hit it a few more times. And what he was relating that to is like, if we've been on a diet and we end up in a situation, maybe it's a business meeting, maybe it's some other kind of gathering, and there's food there. And we break down, we have that piece of chocolate cake, and then we go, oh, hell, I had the chocolate cake. I might as well have those nachos, and that rack of ribs looks pretty good. And pretty soon our diet just went out the window. We forget all about it. So where else do we see this kind of behavior? He said, where else in the world does this happen? Nowhere, but actually it does. And in the world of addictions, that's where it does happen. The person who wasn't smoking but picks up the cigarettes, and boom, they're off the wagon. Same way somebody that wasn't drinking, now they have a drink, boom, now they're back to where they were. That's exactly the way our mind works. We are addicted to food. If we don't want to have a problem, we have to take control of that. Some other questions I ask clients are things like, how do you feel about your metabolism? And most everybody is like, well, my metabolism stopped a long time ago. When we were youngsters, our metabolism is working in our favor. And we can get away with things that later in life we cannot. And I have a whole process for going through that, which has been very effective. Also things like, how fast do we eat? A lot of times people are eating way too fast. And we probably learned this at some point, somewhere along the line that worked for us. And things like, are you conscious when you're eating? And what I mean is, you didn't pass out in your food and your plate there, but a lot of times we're doing other things. Like we might be driving down the highway and we got a double bacon cheeseburger in one hand and a big gulp in the other, and smoking a cigarette and trying to steer with the steering wheel, and we're trying to get that double bacon cheeseburger down before the super sauce runs into our armpit. And when we're doing that, we're not paying attention really to what we're eating, and we're not really enjoying it. And it tends to be that when we eat like that, we feel a need to eat again sooner because we didn't stop and enjoy that. And so taking time, sit down and eat. I worked with working construction, and the guy that ran the crew, he goes, we stop and we sit down and take time to eat. He says, otherwise, if we have to gobble it down, he says, why even stop? He says, we're going to sit down and we're going to have our meal. And that was really good advice. And he didn't have a weight problem, I'll say that. So, pay attention to what you're doing while you're eating. I know years ago, I don't do that so much now because I was single and I could get away with a lot of things. But when I'd sit down to dinner, I'd be reading my book. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a plan for everybody, but I notice I get more involved in the book than I was my food, and I didn't feel as hungry. So, those are just some little things. And there's a lot of stuff, my book, No Time to Waste, there's a ton of things in there. And it's now, I'm not trying to do a sales thing, but this was originally the book. Now it's an audio only book. So if you're interested, it's pretty inexpensive as an audio book. It costs a lot to produce in that form. So we're about out of time here, but I know we're going to have a question and answer period. So you guys are the engineers there. So whatever you want to do. Hello. Have I been talking all this time and nobody could hear me? Okay, I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, and then you talk. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
How many fingers do I hold? No, just kidding.
Can't see you, but I can hear you.
So you need to turn off your screen share.
Okay. See, I'm not exactly a computer whiz. You may have noticed.
Yeah, that green, it'll say,
Hold
there's
on.
a green icon with an arrow on it. Green.
Yeah, I see it. I just can't get my arrow to go over there.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we're ready for.
Does anybody have questions?
We're looking for people's questions.
I'll have a question. We have a microphone. We'll have you speak in.
I think she's trying to say something. If we could make him the main view
Oh,
instead of
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Let me try again. Does anybody have any questions?
There we go.
That's fine. There we go.
There.
I have a quick question just about, creating change creates that sense of dissidence.
Yeah.
And then the natural propensity is to move towards what you call continence.
Yeah, consonants. Yeah.
Have you done some, hypnotic work on associating that dissidence with some kind of subconscious consonance connection?
Sure. Or what we would call aversion. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can create and sometimes I would do that. So say if somebody was addicted to chocolates or whatever, we might make the chocolates repulsive to them. And and in hypnosis, things like nausea is pretty easy to conjure up. And if every time you're around chocolate, you feel nauseous, you're not going to eat chocolate if it makes you sick or whatever. I'll tell you a little quick story, but I had a gal who came to me to quit smoking, and she had seen one of our other therapists a few years back. And she said, well, it worked really well for, I don't know, a couple of years. And then the hypnosis wore off. And I said, oh, the hypnosis wore off. I said, what makes you say that? And she says, well, I was doing fine. And then she was out having drinks with her girlfriends. And I don't know if somebody offered her a cigarette or if she asked for one or what, but she said, yeah, I had a cigarette and the hypnosis just wore off. And I go, wow. And I said, well, what did that cigarette taste like? And she goes, oh, it was horrible. She said, it made me cough. It made me nauseous. I vomited. And I said, what do you want the hypnosis to do? If vomiting won't stop you, it's like, and she goes, oh, maybe you're right. So the hypnosis doesn't really wear off. And it doesn't matter if it did, because when we make a change, then the new change is our neural pathway, basically. But you can change that. I mean, you can go back to an old habit if you want, but that's the idea, is to not pick up a cigarette. It's kind of the deal. And the same way with the food. And I do things create repulsion with cigarettes and other things. But yeah, you're right. Creating that dissonance with a food substance or something. Yeah, that's a method. Yeah, works.
One of the things I used to do is say, what would be one thing you would never put in your mouth? And all kinds of, I had snuff, my brother-in-law's stuff, my husband's big toe was one of them. So,
Yes.
and that worked, boy. People said, yeah, I'm not putting that in my mouth.
I do some stuff around chewing tobacco.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's pretty disgusting in and of itself.
Yeah.
I do some really disgusting stuff around that, and it works amazingly. And I have hypnotists. They go, well, I don't like aversion methods, and I go, doesn't matter. If you like it, it's not about whether you like it or not. It's about, is it effective? That's the thing that's important. I'll do whatever. I don't care if it's going to work. It's going to get my client where they need to go. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm not crazy about aversion stuff, but it works. So sometimes that's what you're going to use. Anything else?
Yeah, we're passing the microphone.
How about other partners and family systems and subterfuge?
Say
Did you hear
what?
that?
I couldn't quite hear that.
I was just thinking about family systems and other partners, other household members, and like.
How does that affect it? Yeah.
Yeah, how do you get around that? Can you tell people to, in hypnosis, to ignore their other partners?
Yeah. Ignoring isn't necessarily where you want to go, but it is one of the biggest consideration as to whether or not you're going to have a weight problem, as if you associate with people who have a weight issue. You're likely to just go with them. But you're absolutely right. Those people around you have a big influence on your habits and like that. And that's where that maverick piece comes in. You got to be different. My dad used to go, and he'd stay with me in the summers because he lived in Florida, but he'd come up here in the summers where it was cooler. And he'd go, you have to eat meat. And I go, really? Why? And he goes, well, I don't know, but you have to. And then he was having some health issues, and I sent him to the doctor, and she puts him on this diet. And you know how doctors do. You eat a quarter ounce of this and a half ounce of that, and blah, blah. And it was driving him crazy. With me, too. And he says, well, I'm just going to eat what you eat. And I go, well, I don't eat any meat or anything. And he goes, yeah. He says, this diet is driving me crazy. And I don't doubt it. So when he went back to his doctor for his checkup, she goes, have you been following the diet I gave you? And he goes, no. And she says, well, what are you doing? And he says, I just eat what my son eats. And she goes, well, whatever you're doing, it's working, so keep doing it. And he got to where he really enjoyed the vegetarian lifestyle, and he had more energy and like that. And I would never, I noticed that. I would not suggest that to him, because he'd have got, he'd have been contrary, but it was real obvious, and he did feel better, and he even said so. So yeah, we can make those changes. So we, as the maverick, can be the one that sets the example for other people. So yeah, it's not as easy. It's not as easy, but you know, somebody has to take control somewhere along the way. So yeah, thanks for that question though.
You hypnotize someone to be the maverick.
Microphone. The question was, can you hypnotize someone to be be a maverick?
Sure, because I mean, you could bring that quality out in them. I see be a more accurate way of putting that, because I think in some way we all have that rebel aspect that thinks being a maverick is a good thing, you know. So yeah, we could appease to their rebel aspect and bring that particular characteristic out. Sure. Anybody else?
I have one more comment. There's another category. There's another category of to consider. It's people who are taking prescription medications, and oftentimes the side effects is weight gain.
Yeah.
So to get a client, you need to kind of go through all of do some sort of research, have them think about, look that up, and sometimes it's combinations. So if you've got high blood pressure and maybe depression, and so that makes this a little bit harder struggle for them.
Yes, it is, and it may. We don't have to give up. You know, we're not saying, well, you're taking these medications, there's nothing we can do. No, lifestyle choices, what we do is still going to work. It just may not be as easy. I mean, it's just the thing, you know. It's like some people, you know, if you're tall, you can hide a little extra weight, but when you're, you know, 4 foot nothing and you got an extra 20 pounds, it's going to show, you know. So that doesn't mean we give up. You know, it's like we might have to work a little harder. Our metabolism might be a little different, and you know, it just means we have to work a little more at it. I mean, I notice it. You know, I was an ultra distance runner. I never had to worry about how much food I ate or what kind. I burned it up, and that's pretty typical of elite athletes. But you know, in my later years, even as a vegetarian, I have to watch what I do, or and like that. And I just got over having a broken foot, so my gym time was pretty limited, or my abilities. But yeah, we keep going no matter what, is the way I kind of look at it. You do the best you can.
Anyone else?
So I'm wondering about those people that are reporting that they're eating well. You know, like they'll tell us, I'm eating these kinds of foods, I'm eating this amount, and that's what they're reporting. Maybe they're on a diet of 1,200 calories, whatever it is. And I believe them. You know, I believe that they really are eating that, yet they're not losing the weight.
Yeah.
Oh, it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, they could be lying, but they very well could be. But it almost doesn't matter, because you can still, when you have them in hypnosis, you can tell them to do whatever. You know, you can challenge them, and there are times, you know, if you have a very permissive style of hypnosis, sometimes you're gonna find that you're gonna have to get in their face. You know, I mean, sometimes you really have to get on people, because this is, you know, this is these eating habits and stuff they may have had for a long time, and not exercising and things like that. So you really have to challenge them. But you know, we need to get out, we need to move, we need to eat right. And like I was saying earlier, there's just so many bad choices out there, you know. And that was part of that hypnosis piece, is The TV. I mean, what do we see advertised on TV? It's not good stuff. They're not advertising broccoli. They're advertising chips and sodas and beer and all that kind of stuff. They don't advertise anything that's good for us. And there's reasons why, because those foods package well. They can look nice. They can have a long shelf life. They're profitable, where broccoli doesn't have any of those characteristics. So they're going to advertise the stuff that people want. And people are sitting around watching TV. Well, yes, chips sounds good. Pizza sounds good. Yeah, I had a gal that was she was going to Slim Genics, and she was paying a lot of money to be on their program. And she came to me. She wasn't losing weight. And she said she was on their program, but she was eating about 3 pizzas a day. And I'm going, I'm pretty sure their program doesn't include 3 pizzas a day. And when I got her off the pizzas, all of a sudden she's losing all kinds of weight. If you're going to do a program, do the program. People go, well, I got to have a cheat day. Why? Why do we have to have a cheat day? All that's doing is keeping you on that same path. It's like somehow eating poor is a reward. How does that work? It doesn't work in my mind. Eating poorly is not a reward for anything. Anyway, now I know Dr. Amy Marsh is going to be coming up, and she's going to talk about sexual things. I think this is going to be very interesting. I hope she talks about some of the gender issues that are going on of late, and use of pronouns and things like that, and especially for professionals. We kind of need to be up on this stuff, because we'll have clients coming in of all various identifiers. So, and unless somebody else has another question, we'll just end it there.
All right, looks like no more questions, so let's take a break.
Just-
Oh, wait.
I'm not sure I understand this. Questions.
Oh, we've got some more questions. Hold on.
All right.
Okay. First of all, thank you.
Thank you.
For background research, nice information. Do you find it useful to share your statistics with your clients?
I do have some stuff, but rarely it might come up in conversation. Sometimes it's good to have some handouts and things. I should say this. I have some recordings. One is for daytime weight mastery, and one is for nighttime use. The daytime one is not a hypnosis recording. They can listen to it anytime, even when they're driving in the car. The nighttime one, they plug in at night when they go to bed at night. One of the reasons is, if I tell you, you got to listen to this, you got to go into hypnosis and listen to this recording, they're going to fail. We don't want our clients to fail. So I make this so easy and like that. If you are interested in what those recordings are, you can go on our website and download them for free. So you'd have those. Not a bad little deal.
And one last question. Also,
Yeah.
what is your favorite anxiety process to support weight release?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I wanted to talk about that a little bit more, but yeah. So how I do work with weight clients a lot of times has changed because of the anxiety, the stress levels that people are under. And I've added a lot of, I do a lot of work in the Esdale state. And so I've added that in a lot of times with whatever weight stuff I'm doing. So yeah, sometimes I have to get people chilled out enough so that I can even do hypnosis on them. It's crazy how life is these days, but it is the truth. Yeah, so I've added a lot of stuff for deep state hypnosis and like that I've been doing. Too involved to go much more in depth though.
Can I ask one question?
Let's finish this one.
Hi, Drake. Kat Wilson here. I have a positive in Portland, and
It's really a pleasure to hear all your good ideas, and I deeply appreciate them, so thank you.
Great, thank you. It's been a pleasure for me as well. You guys have a great organization out there. I mean, I went on your website and stuff, and it's like, heck, every state should have that. I'm not, I'm not gonna start it, but somebody should.
Well, you know, one of the really cool things about this organization too is that people come from a lot of different trainings. It's kind of like a really good soup. Not everybody has the exact same training, so some people know some terms and some people know other. Some
Right.
people, and some people have NLP, some went to different ones. Would you be willing to go ahead for those people who aren't familiar with the Esdale State to just give a little piece on that, just to
Oh, sure. So yes, the Esdale State is named after Dr. James Esdale, who in the 1840s did hundreds and hundreds of performed hundreds and hundreds of surgeries on people in this state of hypnosis that was named after him. And I have perfected the use. I teach a class on it, working with different issues. And really, I got started doing this, working with trichotillomania of all things. I ended up being the trichotillomania expert of the world, I think, as far as hypnosis. And trichotillomania is compulsive hair pulling, but it also, there are things like skin picking, nail biting, teeth grinding, things like that, that goes along with it, or it's very similar in nature. But I perfected working in this Esdale State, and I have expanded it to so many things that work so good with the anxiety. But the Esdale State is used for painless surgery and dentistry and things like that. And it feels good. You know, if you ever had a client come out of hypnosis and they go, I don't know if I was hypnotized. Anybody that's been in the Esdale State never does that. They're like, oh my God, it's kind of like that. So, yeah. And the Esdale State becomes a convincer, because in the Esdale State, people feel so different, so much better, because if even have any little aches or pains, you're oblivious to those during this state, but it feels so good that whatever we went in to work on must have been successful, because something really good happened. So even if you did crappy suggestions, you're still going to be a winner if you play this one right. But I really enjoy working in this state, and I do a lot of it.
I'm just wondering, have you noticed the younger, like teenagers are having more anxiety? Seems like I have a lot more teenagers becoming at high levels.
Yeah. And you know, I think we take young people for granted sometimes, because young people are very resilient, but we keep piling stuff on them, and our school situations become neurotic. You know, it's like, we got to get these test scores up at any cost. You know, we do away with gym class and music and all these things, so as long as we get our test scores up. You know, the Asians have better test scores, we can't be beaten out. But it's like, you know, somebody's going to have the best scores, and we can't just focus on the scores. You know, it's like, are you going to adopt an Asian lifestyle along with it? Because that probably has a lot to do with it. You know, it's like, you just can't pressure kids into better test scores. I think our society has lost its mind. We need to produce healthy, high-functioning individuals, not these neurotics that are seeking power and money. It's like, we can see where that's getting us. That's not very helpful. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna take a break and come back at 2:35.
Thanks, everyone.